welcome back to another episode of the UK Glamping podcast, hosted by us here at Glam Protect. So, as usual, we do have a special guest with us today. So, I'd just like to introduce Emma, Director at Blackdown Shepherd Huts. Thanks very much for coming along.
Good morning. It's really lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you very much for coming. Regular listeners to our podcast and people who have dealt with us here at Glam Protect will be more than aware of our pods and our offering through Pod Factory UK, and may well have met Alex. But of course, we're not naive enough to believe that everybody is going to want exactly the same type of unit, and there is a whole world of choice out there. So we thought it was important to highlight another type of unit for you, hence having a Shepherd Hut manufacturer here to have a chat to us today. But before we get into the company and everything that they do, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I was new to the hospitality industry back in 2015, so we were fairly early entrants. Blackdown started in 2011. I've got my own Shepherd Huts called, about 10 minutes down the road from them, called Dimpsey, and we came into the glamping industry in 2015. I met Blackdown through going to look at their very first Shepherd Hut that they ever built way back in 2011, and they liked what I had to say about marketing. So since then I've been doing their business development and strategic side of things. So Blackdown established 2011 by Will and his cousin George in their garage. Basically they'd had an idea to build a shepherd's hut. They'd both come from a farming background, so it was a structure that they'd seen around. Someone had mentioned building one and they thought, let's do it. How difficult can it be? And that's how it all started.
Wow, that's amazing. So you started off as a client and ended up as a director of the company. That's a fairly unusual journey.
Yeah. Well, they're really, George and Will, both smart cookies. Will took over the company in 2015. George went off to do property development. But they've always been great big believers in get people in who are experts at what they do to support you in your business growth. And so they just rang me up after I went to look at it and said, can we have a coffee? If you do business development, can we chat? So, yeah.
That's the name of the game, isn't it? And the more openly you can communicate with clients and kind of contractors alike, the further everybody gets. So lovely to hear that was such a smooth process for you. Whilst we're on the subject of you having your own site, we might as well stick a shameless plug in here. Whereabouts are you? What part of the country are you in? Where can people find you?
I'm on the Blackdown Hills down in Somerset, based about 10 minutes away from Ilminster, 10 minutes away from Blackdown, and about half an hour from Lyme Regis. So we have a lot of people come to sit outside like they do with glamping structures and play with fire and hot tubs and then pop to the beach.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. You got a beach nearby as well.
Yeah, Lyme Regis, which is just beautiful. So
amazing. Best of both. So for those listening and watching, check out the description of the episode down below. We will make sure to pop a couple of links in so that you can go and check the site out. If you'd like to go and visit that part of the world, please do. And at least now you'll have a friendly face to go and speak to if you do check in there.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about yourself. Blackdown being founded as early as it was is probably a little bit of a trend bucker, I guess, in the glamping industry, and that an awful lot of manufacturers and indeed site owners probably didn't really get into it until lockdown and the preceding and the years since, I should say. We've obviously really seen the market boom since then. So have you seen any kind of significant changes from kind of pre-lockdown as opposed to post with how the units look or what customers expect from them?
I think people are asking for things that are a little bit different. I think because so much came into the marketplace during lockdown, in order to stand out, you've got to be a little bit different. So I would say that people are a little bit more confident in their choices and they do more research because there's more around to look. So they come a little bit more fully formed, shall we say, in what they're thinking about having.
Yeah.
So, but there are amazing structures out there now, aren't there? There's so much variety. When Blackdown first started, it literally was a shepherd's hut with just the space inside it, what we would call a retreat now. But then when I came along, I wanted to do high-end glamping. That was quite early on when I started for high-end. Everybody told me I was bonkers because nobody wants luxury, they want to be camping. It's one step up from camping, and I wanted Babington House and Fields.
How
And
right you were.
yes,
Yeah.
and Blackdown were the company that was willing to have a go at creating a wall bed for me and putting the bathroom in. So it kind of all started from there, and that's now the best-selling turnkey configuration for Blackdown. So it's always, the turnkey's always had its heritage in glamping, and I'd say that now people are people are a lot more discerning, I think, about their breaks, and a
Yeah,
lot less
absolutely.
forgiving maybe. Before, I think in the early days of glamping it was like, wow, just having hot water inside
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
thing, was lovely. But now I think people are a lot more discerning when they're looking for their structures.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's a conversation we have a lot with people who are looking to set sites up, is how do they protect themselves against kind of saturation in the market, or where's the sweet spot customer wise. I think
Mm.
there'll always be a customer base for the slightly elevated version of camping and the composting toilets and things like that that don't necessarily want all the creature comforts. But certainly all the data seems to suggest that the market is definitely moving towards that kind of more luxurious end. Hot water and running showers and just those finer kind of creature comforts. So when people think shepherd's huts, obviously we met at the glamping show, and there's, as you rightly just said, there's a whole range of different sizes, shapes, colours, materials of units out there. And shepherd's huts obviously paint a certain mental picture when people think of them, and I think initially people probably imagine them to be a much smaller than they can actually be, and they think the kind of old traditional kind of gypsy wagon size of sort of unit, but they can actually be significantly larger than that, can't they?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I'm sitting in my office here, and it's a 20 foot by 7 foot 6 structure, which has got a wall bed in it, and my desk and everything else, and also another room off it. So I think, depending on the manufacturer, you were talking just now about people and what they should set up, and I'm a massive believer in being authentic about what you want to offer, and it's something that you love. So if you love
Yeah,
wild camping and that is you, then that's absolutely what you should offer, because that connects with your customers. But if I'd done a lot of camping with the kids, and I didn't want to do that anymore. So
yeah,
I came at it from the point of view that I wanted something where I didn't have to make a bed when I went away, because I was doing that enough at home, and that was authentic for me. So, and I think the structures are like that as well. When you look around at the different manufacturers, it's great that there's a lot of competition, because as long as you keep authentic to what you do, then you'll stand out to the right customers. And there's customers in the shepherd hut market, and I'm sure you find this in the pod market as well, that don't want Blackdown and do want something else, or do want Blackdown and don't want something else. They've already selected, and I think that's the thing. When a market starts getting saturated, it's time to stop copying and to actually just really root yourself in the authenticity of what you do.
no, of course. I think that's a really really valid point, and not copying what the person next to you is the name of the game. Obviously, having some sort of unique selling point that is going to make people remember you over anybody else that they've Googled or has come up on the booking.coms of the world is what's hopefully going to bring them back for a second or a third or a fourth visit.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
with that in mind, obviously shepherd's huts and pods and things like that, you can forgive people for thinking they look quite similar from the outside, but they're eminently customizable, I assume, in the same way that pods are, in that you can play around with internal layouts and materials and finishes.
Yeah, absolutely. You can start the A lot of people like the shepherd hut space because it does give you everything you need, but not too much space to worry about. And
Yeah.
they're not small. You never run out of space. But yes, like the pods, you can customize it, and you could have it with just a freestanding bed in and a bathroom. And of course, we bought the brace to the market. That was our innovation in the first place, where we put two together with a glass walkway, so you can easily have an ensuite bedroom, and you can have a lounge and a kitchen at the front. But that can be in whatever configuration and layout that you would like to do, really.
Okay, so I take it that's quite a consultative process. If they just want to get in touch with Blackdown, they can have that conversation over the phone and over calls like this. But if they want to actually come and feel and see and touch the units, how can they do that? Do you guys have a showroom, or would you just kind of send them to a site that you've already helped? Or, of course, the shows that we're always exhibiting at?
Yeah, we've got a large showroom down in Ilminster, so a display garden. We have our Meridian office hut on display, sauna, 2 turnkeys, and the Fusion, which is a brace with an external platform with outside kitchen. And you can walk around the workshop. The workshop's really extensive now. And talk to our interior designer if you want to as well, if you want some help and assistance in styling it. Obviously, people can come and stay at Dimpsey, and I always give any customers support and help with their glamping dreams. And there are Blackdown huts at another place up in the lakes, at the Fish Hotel in the Cotswolds, at Michael Caine's Limpston Manor down in Exmouth. So there's always someone somewhere people can go. And I'd always encourage that. If you're thinking about glamping, forget about whether it's Blackdown or the pods or whatever, go and stay in some things and, work out what works for you, what space you like, and then when you've narrowed it down to that, go and look at a few and stay in a few, and you'll soon know who the right manufacturer for you is.
Oh, 100%. I think that there's no substitute for experiencing it for yourself. I mean, we live in a world of internet consumerism where it is very easy to gather an awful lot of information about so many different manufacturers through the internet. But yeah, go and touch them and feel them. I can't echo that sentiment anymore if I tried. Best place to do that all under one roof is things like the glamping show and other exhibitions around the UK. But yeah, go and actually experience what your customers are going to experience. Go and stay the night if you can. That's certainly going to tell you a lot more than just walking around and having a quick 10-minute shuffle in and out. So that's the units themselves. Obviously, when people are looking at setting sites up, they're also considerate of what you touched on earlier, which is the outdoor space, barbecues, fire pits, all that kind of stuff. Do you see any kind of like trends emerging with the things that clients are asking for? Or
Yes, certainly. I think that they need support, and I think there's so much information there on the internet. It can be very confusing, and that is why the glamping show and the farm innovation show and things like that, they do a great job that you can stand and chat to people. But definitely it's understanding who the customer is, and I'm seeing, certainly we're seeing much more connection to the outdoors. We've just launched saunas. We do treatment huts so that people can, the wellbeing trend is set to grow, isn't it? And
yeah, there was a lot of saunas there this year, weren't there? A lot,
yeah,
including ourselves, obviously. But yeah, there seems to be a real trend of saunas coming into as an addition.
definitely. And I think the wellbeing market's forecast to grow 15% year on year. So it's a strong market. And I think that makes sense if you think about it. People have come and reconnected with nature. I think that's the job that glamping does. It gives you a sense of self and a sense of being outside, and some time perhaps that you don't get in nature if that's not where you normally live. If you don't normally live in the countryside, or if you don't normally, if people have sites in their gardens, don't they? Big gardens and things
They
like that.
do.
It's a lovely way to do it. So I think the glamping show probably reflected what is happening. There's a lot more external activity, I'd say, in terms of the fire pits, the saunas, the wellbeing spaces, the sit out. And I think the weather is driving people to bring covered things in as well, because we sat and had a lovely chat, didn't we, on your stand with the benches and the sauna and the cover, and it was a good job because it was raining.
Yeah, the weather didn't play fair all weekend, unfortunately, at the show this year, as you may have seen from some of our previous podcast episodes for the regular viewers. But yeah, covered outdoor spaces are seeming to be more and more prevalent, and certainly there's something that's being searched for quite regularly as an extra now. Because I think sauna pods in years gone by have tended to be like communal pods as part of a site that could then be kind of booked, but we're starting to see that they're now very straightforward to kind of add on to individual pods and just have that little bit more personal space. So between that and things like pizza ovens, areas to barbecue, all that kind of stuff with a little shelter over it, it's meaning that the more traditionally kind of quiet months when it's a little bit colder and the weather's a little bit less predictable are now being booked with a lot more confidence by clients, and we're starting to see that kind of average occupancy rate creep up in the market, which is obviously lovely to see.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when we first started doing, the perennial question is always, oh, do you think it's slowing down after lockdown? Well, lockdown was an extraordinary event. If you actually go back and compare to pre-lockdown, it hasn't slowed. But also people said, oh, don't you think if hotels start doing it, it's going to affect the market? And I see it as a brilliant thing, because I think it introduces people to glamping that may not have thought about glamping before. And then it's like, okay, now I like this. What else is there out there? And what else can I see? So I think the sort of slightly closer marriage between what you would have formed traditional hospitality and glamping is a good thing for all of us.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly from our side, we're starting to see all sorts of businesses inquire about adding this to their kind of portfolio, from hotels to golf clubs to like fisheries, all sorts of places that perhaps their customer base would kind of come and go previously and wouldn't necessarily stay overnight, are starting to realise that there's a significant amount of money to potentially be made there by having that captive audience on site and offering them those additional experiences and other touches. And as you say, the more people that are in the market, the more it pushes us to keep improving and keep being better. So personally, I think if you're scared of competition, then there's probably an underlying issue there. I think it can only be a good thing for the industry, for sure.
Absolutely. And I think the glamping industry, for the amount of time that it's been going, I don't think there's many industries that can match it for innovation. I think, they're a sparky bunch of people in the glamping, and you must see that. I know you've done assessments for so many people, your feasibility studies and things, and the range that you must see must be really wide now compared to the early days. We certainly see
It's
that.
pretty bonkers, yeah. From kind of what used to be very basic kind of sleeping barrels, like little Viking barrels, to now these kind of places with double beds and fires and full kitchens and all sorts of kind of internet-based hookups and stuff. There is a market out there for absolutely every customer, I think, is the point that we would take away from it. And I think that's the potential customer base is only going to keep widening, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you have to, we've done more about the additional things. We've just launched a cabin, which is not on wheels. It's a bit more ground based, but still sticking very much to the heritage of what Blackdown is. And you've got to innovate and move forward. But I think it's really important to keep that within your niche, your brand, and what you do. Otherwise, it just confuses customers.
Yeah, you still need that identity so that people can go and remember their experience. Well, listen, that's been fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us today and sharing your insights. As we said, all the contact details will be in the episode description for Blackdown and for yourself. So, guys, do please go and check them all out. We would love to hear from a few of you once you've been to see them, and have a few kind of customer testaments as to exactly what you thought and your experiences. So please reach out, get in touch, interact with the videos. Before we let you go, we tend to end each episode with just a request for a pearl of wisdom or one kind of drop of information that you might offer somebody that's just starting out that you think would be beneficial. Have you got a nugget you can offer?
Yeah, I definitely think, Will, when he started the company, absolutely knew who he was going to build for and what he was going to do. And when I started Dimpsey, I knew who my customer was and who I was creating a space for. And I think that is absolutely the thing to understand. Who is your customer that suits you for your area, for what you want to do, and then think about what you do from their point of view. So it can help you with things like, well, if there's a cycle trail nearby and you love cycles, then you need some cycle storage. It really does help you, create that sort of USP that I think is so important these days for manufacturers and hospitality owners alike.
Yeah, really solid piece of advice. I think if you can have a clear kind of market in mind that you're trying to aim your sights at, then it gives you a sense of direction straight off the bat. Fantastic tip. Thank you very much. So once again, if you want to check out Dimpsey, you want to check out Blackdown, have a look for their details in the descriptions, and let us know how you get on. Emma, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks very much.
Cheers. Bye-bye.